Hey guys, I was just thinking about something like I often do. I don't know if you saw the video where I'm talking about when I first got this jacket when I was riding my motorcycle way back, and I had a Yamaha Maxim, 650cc Yamaha Maxim, and I bought it. Me and my buddy decided, yeah, we're gonna get motorcycles, and we were working at Ponderosa Steakhouse, right? And we were staying with some friends, so we weren't paying rent, so we were able to save money. And we each got motorcycles. And I remember I paid $900 for this Yamaha Maxim. I'd never ridden a motorcycle in my life, right? Not even as a passenger. So I'm gonna ride a motorcycle. And the guy dropped it off for me. That was cool. And then I had to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And so I remember the first time we lived out in the middle of nowhere on this little gravel road. And I started the motorcycle, and I was having trouble releasing the clutch and giving it gas without it stalling. And so I couldn't get it to run. Like I said, I'd never ridden a motorcycle before in my life, so I have no experience. And so finally I just twisted the throttle, whoom, and let go of the brake, whoom, took off out of there, zoom, out of our driveway, and took off up this gravel road. We were like 80 miles an hour. I'm not even exaggerating. I was going like 80 miles an hour up this gravel road. And my buddy, he was a little bit more experienced on a motorcycle. He took off after me. And I'm flying along and started fishtailing in the gravel. And I thought it was gonna drop it. And I didn't, thankfully. And I got to this part where I could turn around, and I turned around and took off down the gravel road again. And I passed my buddy coming up to check on me, and went right on by, right? And I went all the way back to our driveway and pulled in the driveway and slowed down and stopped. Both brakes, you know, you got a foot brake and a hand brake. I hit both brakes, and I was just like locked up from terror, and just fell over in the driveway. So I finally dropped the bike once I had stopped. It was crazy. That was a hilarious thing to have happen. And the adventures went on from there. Excuse me while I choked to death. The adventures went on from there with the motorcycle. It was crazy. I mean, me and my buddy, we ended up living on our motorcycles, basically. We still worked at Ponderosa Steakhouse, and we moved out of living with our friends, and we camped in this wooded area that was behind this cemetery. And I remember there was a water spigots in the cemetery where the groundskeepers would use, you know, to water the grass and stuff, and we would shower in the water spigots in the graveyard. So we're full-on outlaw biker wannabes, right? And so that was really cool at the time. And I had that motorcycle. That was my only mode of transportation for years in rural Ohio. I remember riding it all the way into November, riding in the snow. I had these big insulated coveralls, and I had a scarf around my face. And I remember it was so cold that when I stopped, I had to flip up the visor on my helmet, or it would fog up and ice, because it was so, my breath would fog it up and it would ice over. That's how cold it was. Yeah, and I remember too, me and that guy and a buddy of ours, we took a trip down to friends of ours down in Jackson, Ohio, out in the hills. Rode out there and showed up unannounced, you know what I mean? They didn't know we were coming. They didn't know who we were when we came in. And they were sitting around with some friends of theirs playing Dungeons and Dragons. And we'd already been drinking. We pulled in there and stormed the place. Hey, everybody, they're like, well, hey, you want to join the game? So we did, and we were drinking, playing Dungeons and Dragons. And it didn't go well. All three of us got all drunk and rowdy in the place, and the people were like, well, maybe we should wrap it up for tonight, and they like headed out, right? And so we just continued getting drunk and rowdy. Now, my ex at the time, not my ex-wife, but my ex-girlfriend from the 90s, early 90s, lived out in that area. We had broken up on kind of bad terms, right? And so I got so drunk in the middle of the night, I thought it was going to be a good idea to ride my motorcycle out to her place. For what reason, I don't know, to tell her off or whatever, I don't know. Terrible idea. In retrospect, I do wish that people had stopped me. It was the middle of the night out there in the hills, and I mean, out there's no street lights, right? There's no street lights out there. Nothing. So I'm flying along, drunk off my ass. Boom! Go in the ditch around this turn. Blam! Just dropped the bike in the ditch. Couldn't get it out. And some good old boys going by on a pickup truck saw me and helped me get the bike out of the ditch. And it was covered in mud. I had mud all up to my knees trying to get out of this swampy ass ditch. And so then at least I had the presence of mind to admit defeat, and I turned around and I went back. And I remember coming out in the morning with a hangover. My bike looked like fucking Luke Skywalker's X-Wing after it comes up out of the swamp, and all these weeds and mud and everything hanging on it. But that was not the last time I made a stupid drunken mistake on that motorcycle, believe it or not. Yeah, those were some crazy ass times. And then the thing is, I never did get my license. I failed the test, but at least in Ohio at the time anyhow, you could get a learner's permit for the motorcycle without taking a test. And then the idea is you ride it around. You're not allowed to ride after nightfall, and you're not allowed to carry passengers, which I did both. But the thing is, you can't get another license plate. You can't renew your license plates until you're licensed. So my license plate expired. And my buddy's bike was broken down for months and months. So I swiped, his was a Yamaha, oh man, I don't even remember what he had, but it was another Yamaha. I was like, nobody's gonna look at them plates and know the difference. So I took his license plate and put it on my bike. And so continued the drunken, wild motorcycle lifestyle. And one time my buddy was riding on the back of my bike, and when we got to where we were going, he's like, stop doing that, calm down, you have my fucking license plate on your bike. I remember he got all pissed off. He chewed me out for the way I was riding, because he's like, man, we get pulled over, it's gonna be me, this is my bike. And man, I remember before his bike broke down, we were partying one night, and we had met these girls. They were like underage too. And we were all drunk and stoned, and they were, man, take us for a ride on the motorcycle. So of course we're like, hell yeah. And like I said, we lived out in the country, out in the middle of nowhere on these gravel roads with no street lights or anything. So we took off, speeding around with these girls on our bikes. It's crazy stuff, man. So yeah, not to glorify that, or certainly not recommend it in any way, but this is what actually happened. And so I ended up having to sell that motorcycle. My ex-wife, just kind of like decided she was going to scoop me up and change me into the perfect husband and all this, which didn't work. But it did effectively get rid of my motorcycle. I ended up selling it for $600 to some guy. And it was crazy because I remember he brought his girlfriend with him. He was some rednecky looking guy, which is no offense, it's just the thing is he fits a type, right? And his girlfriend bought it. She wrote me a check for $600 after he decided he wanted it. And I mean, she was wearing a suit and I assume his girlfriend, maybe it was his big sister, I don't know, but she just didn't really seem like she would be associated with him. And like I said, not to throw any shade on anybody for their lives or anything, it's just, you have certain types, and they generally don't mix is all. Anyhow, I'm starting to ramble like I often do, and so that's some stories about my motorcycle. I'm going to get out of here. Take it easy.